So a lot of people are worrying about how good those Chinese AI tools are becoming. Tools like DeepSeek, Manus AI, or Qwen. And according to benchmarks, these models are going pretty much toe-to-toe with American AI labs that we know, like OpenAI, Anthropic, or Google. But if you're a business, benchmarks don't mean very much to you. So how do those Chinese AI tools really compare when it comes to real business tasks? Well, that's what we're reviewing today. Okay, I've taken the following picture of myself, and we're gonna put this into Gemini and Qwen, Qwen being the Chinese equivalent. And we're going to ask it to turn this photo into a professional LinkedIn photo. And so let's put that in Qwen as well. Okay, so let's see what Gemini has done. Oh my God, what is this smile here? I guess it's kind of consistent with the initial picture, but it's not really a LinkedIn photo that you put anywhere. It kind of removed the background, which is pretty well done. I guess the shirt is pretty consistent, but the face is just a bit awkward. Let's see what Qwen did and compare. And I guess some people will say that I didn't put a really good prompt, which is maybe true, but we're just comparing the two based on the same prompt. And let's see what it does on the Qwen side of things. Okay, so we're looking slightly more professional. I guess there's not a massive change from the initial picture as far as like the expression. The shirt is a bit more professional, which is better, I would say. It's not a plain background, which is fine. I wouldn't say it's the most enticing LinkedIn picture. Definitely wouldn't use it. But I guess I would say we're pretty much on a tie here. I wouldn't use either of them for my LinkedIn, but I guess they're doing just as poorly. But the consistency is better, and it is there. So I guess if I was prompting a bit further, maybe I could get something decent. But again, I think we're pretty much breaking on a tie here. Okay, so we're gonna move on. Again, the point here is not to get very much in depth about each of these specific prompts. The specific prompts don't really matter. Let's try to compare the US and the Chinese models based on very simple tasks that we can easily assess the difference, see which one is best, and objectively pick the best one. Okay, next up, we're gonna compare ChatGPT and DeepSeek. And we're going to compare them on this prompt, which is essentially just taking one of the posts, something that I wrote in my last newsletter about, where the AI money is. And based on that post, I mean, I guess more of a newsletter, create 3 witty and viral Twitter posts. Okay, so let's see how ChatGPT did. And I guess it's decent, nothing too groundbreaking. It's usually the kind of AI content that you get, which is like sort of punchy, short, and no one actually talks like this. But let's see what DeepSeek did over here, and same prompt. So here we are. Yeah, okay, it's pretty much the same kind of stuff. It added hashtags, which is pretty relevant on Twitter as far as I know. So not really super aware of the platform, I would say. It's funny how they kind of picked up on the same things. And I know that, there was a lot of talk about DeepSeek being trained on OpenAI in a lot of ways. So, I'm not surprised that they're sort of taking out the same bits out of the blog post. But overall, I would say DeepSeek's content is slightly better. I mean, again, I wouldn't use those to actually tweet on my account, but it's slightly better. The hashtags is sort of really poor, but you can just ignore that. Overall, I would say, again, DeepSeek is slightly better. I guess that wouldn't be entirely objective, and maybe you prefer those. For this one, I'm going to put 1 point on DeepSeek and the Chinese camp, but really, they're really pretty similar. Okay, so let's move on and do a bit of coding and create a very simple app. And the prompt is going to be the following, and I'm going to paste it in Claude and Kimi. Kimi is another Chinese LLM, and apparently it's pretty decent for coding and doing this kind of small tools. So let's put it against Claude, which is, sort of the preferred option for LLM as far as coding goes. Okay, so here is the prompt. We're going to create a business app for projected income based on how many people I've emailed, my response rate, my book call rate, closing rate, just essentially, numbers that I can input, and then it gives me sort of a nice calculators for me to have a projected income. So let's just see how Claude did, and it created this artifact, which looks off the bat pretty good. Let's sort of maybe test it out and change some numbers. Yeah, it's updated automatically, which is pretty impressive, and I like the look of it, to be honest. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. I think it looks really cool, and yeah, I would give this a pretty good score. So let's see how Kimi did. Okay, and here is how it did. And off the bat, it didn't show me a preview and a nice artifact like Claude did, but I can still preview the tool right here, and here is the result. So it does automatically update just like Claude. Look-wise, let's just be honest, Claude is miles ahead. Still pretty simple, pretty straightforward, so I don't mind it. I kind of like this addition here at the bottom. Actually, I think it's pretty clear looking and maybe slightly even better than Claude. But yeah, from a looks perspective, there's definitely no competition here, and Claude is better. Both tools work. And I guess if I was prompting this further, I can make it look better, but we are just judging this off of one prompt. And on that side of things, Claude did better. So 1 point for the Americas side of things here. Okay, so next up, we're going to do some deep research on a specific topic. And I just want to see how Gemini, which is the one that I tend to use for deep research, I kind of like how fast it goes and what it does. We're going to see how it compares to Manus AI, which is a Chinese AI that's done a lot of noise about maybe 6 months ago when it came out. And let's compare the two. Okay, so before we look at the results, the prompt was to do some deep research on the open-toe shoe market in Europe and the current trends. And obviously, as a business, if you take on a client in an industry that you haven't worked in before, doing this kind of deep research can be really useful. If you don't know anything about that market, just like the open-toe shoe market, then I want to see how good those two tools are to give me a good summary, give me some, good insight into, again, something that I don't know anything about, and give me sort of a good research on that. So off the bat, I have to say that Gemini was way quicker. Manus AI is a bit slower. Now, to be fair, Manus AI is not necessarily a deep research tool, but what it does is that it navigates the internet. It acts sort of as a browser agent, where it's just going to navigate and search through the webs and then give you the results. It's a bit slower, but for some tasks you don't mind, and it can do a better job. But let's look at the result of this deep research. Okay, I'm just going to skim through here. Obviously, I don't really care about the results, but let me just see how far it went. Okay, so I guess it's pretty in-depth, and we have a lot of sources, so that would be something that I can explore if I wanted to. Let's see how Manus did on its end. So as you can see, Manus went and did the search, and it kind of, walked me through all of the steps of that. I don't really care at the end of the day. I just want to see the results. So let's see that final report. And it's definitely not as in-depth as Gemini, but at least it's just giving me a one-pager that I could actually digest. I mean, if I was just going to look into this at a glance, the Gemini report is definitely too long for me to just have a quick glance. And I guess this is maybe better in that way. Obviously, there's still a bunch of sources that I can read into if I wanted. Okay, so overall, I would say it's still pretty much a tie. I mean, Manus AI will give you a better sort of at a glance results, and then some links that you can read to have a deeper understanding. Gemini will give you more of an in-depth summary, but sometimes that's not what you're looking for. Again, I could probably reprompt this and ask it to give me just a one-page summary. Out of this one prompt, I would say it's different, but no one is better than the others. It just depends what you're looking for. Okay, so next task is going to be content creation and content ideation. So a lot of time, if you're creating content, it's not bad to go back and forth with any LLM and just trying to find some ideas. Sometimes it has good ones, a lot of time it doesn't, to be honest. But here I'm going to compare ChatGPT and DeepSeek on giving me 3 YouTube video ideas. And the topic is going to be the new Sora 2 video generator by ChatGPT. And let's see what kind of video ideas I'm getting. So ChatGPT is giving me, either a deep dive and sort of testing the whole tool, or specific use cases and ways to use the tool, which is the kind of ones that I prefer anyway. And the last one is more of the controversial angle of how bad it is essentially. Okay, not bad. And I guess it's a diversity of ideas. I wouldn't say they're super creative or innovative or that they would do well, but I guess it's giving me different angles and things to think through, which is usually, how I like to go back and forth for ideas anyway. Now let's see what DeepSeek did. And the first idea is also a deep dive. Now I do see that it gives me a bit more of a structure for the video rather than just the idea. It's not really what I asked, but I guess it's not a bad thing to give me on top of the the idea, the angle, and the hook to give me the structure, the timeage. So again, I guess pretty similar ideas, but DeepSeek did give me more structure, but again, I didn't ask for it. I could easily just probably do that on a second prompt here for ChatGPT and ask it to give me a bit more structure, and it would do a similar job. So I guess it's pretty much a tie again here. Okay, so next up, we're gonna do a bit of graphic design, and we're gonna want to create a lead magnet graphic for our PDF download using, again, Gemini or Qwen. I picked those because Gemini has made a lot of noise recently with their new image generation model, Banana, and Qwen also had a really good update on that part, so I think they're pretty good to compare. And so the prompt is going to be to transform this PDF cover, which is a bit of a placeholder, into a good-looking lead magnet graphic for my opt-in page. So if you have an opt-in page and you have a PDF or a video series or a VSL, and you want to create a nice graphic for people to opt in and then look at it, then this is the kind of thing that you can try. So let's see what Gemini did, and I don't really care about the text part of things, but this is the results. It's not bad. That's not really what I had in mind, to be fair, but I didn't give it too much instructions, so I guess it's not a bad result. Let's see how Qwen does, and this is the result, which is terrible. Didn't even keep my original cover, and the background is just, black. So definitely not a good result. Again, my prompt could have been better. I could have given some examples and more details about what I'm looking for, but we're just trying to also test how, understanding they are of natural language and not having to babysit them all the way through. So I guess on that matchup, Gemini is clearly better, not ideal, but clearly better. And that's one more point for that side. Okay, so we've done some text, we've done some image generation. Let's do some video creation. And I want these AI to create a 10-second video ad for my product. So for this, I wanted to compare the new Sora 2, but I don't have access to it just yet. So for now, we're just gonna do Gemini versus Aluo AI, which is a Chinese company. Okay, and this is the prompt, which is a vibrant scene of Gen Z friends applying their new hair gel. So my product's a hair gel. And this is the prompt and the kind of video that I'm looking for. And let's see how it does. It did take a couple minutes, which I'm going to cut out, but this is the result.
This is going to be amazing.
Yeah. I cannot wait to see this.
Yeah, what?
Oh my God, look at your hair.
Wait.
It's gonna be
Nothing changed in your hair, but I mean, anyway, the voices are really good. And I didn't even ask it to add any voice, but it did, and they're really good. The actual ad is obviously very poor, and this would require a lot more prompting, but it's not terrible and a bit better than I was even expecting. Now, here's the result for Aleo AI, and I'm using their Aleo 2 model, which is the latest one. And there's no sound, and it's really a bit of a mess. I mean, the physics doesn't make much sense. I don't know what they're doing here. It doesn't really look like a hair gel. And yeah, this is very weird. So something that I know Aleo is actually very good for is when you give it a starting picture and an end picture, and then it's really good at sort of creating something in between and creating a video out of this. For this specific task, I would say it did a really bad job, and definitely Gemini has done something better. But again, I've heard really good things, so I would recommend you still try it. But for this matchup, obviously Gemini is a lot better. Okay, so next up, I want to have those two AI to create a funny meme around the following prompt. And I'm going to use ChatGPT versus Qwen here. Okay, and the prompt was to create a funny meme on the latest Sora trend, which was making fun of Sam Altman. And there was a lot of that going on Twitter. So this is the result from ChatGPT itself, which obviously might be biased. So not really a funny meme, but I guess it does kind of look like a meme at least. Let's see what Qwen is going to do. Okay, and this is the result for Qwen. Yeah, definitely not really meme looking. And it doesn't really make any sense. This doesn't look like Sam Altman. I don't know, it's a lab person. So I guess again here, ChatGPT did a better job. Not perfect at all, not something that I would use, but did do a better job based on the prompt that I gave it. Okay, so that was the last test, and let's review the score. It does look pretty even though the American AI tend to do slightly better in some of the tasks. I try to give it a variety of different tasks. So we had, text creation, image creation, video creation, and then a bit of creativity and things like that. I think when it comes to creation of text-based content, then, it's going to be pretty much the same thing on the Chinese or American side of things. When it came to creative stuff and image generation or image editing, I think Gemini generally did a better job than the Chinese counterpart, but that's probably not going to be most of the tasks that a business uses AI for. So most of the tasks that businesses will use AI for are going to be things around text, things around doing a bit of research, things about structuring something. And in those cases, I think that it's pretty similar between Chinese and American AI. So if that's most of what you're using AI for, probably pretty much the same. But if you have more specific users and need specific tools, then, overall, it was kind of hard sometimes to find Chinese tools that really do exactly the same as American AI tools. So there's definitely more diversity and numbers in the number of, American AI tools than Chinese. Sometimes you have tools that are very specific at doing something and do it really well. Manus AI is an example where it's a Chinese tool and it does something really, really well. So don't discount the Chinese tools. And again, it just depends really on your use case. It really depends on which level of AI you are. And if you don't know, then go ahead and watch this next video to see the 5 different level of AI and AI automation and see which one you're on and how to get to the next one. Or if you just want to keep updated with new AI and AI automations and how to implement that in your business, then go ahead and subscribe to the free newsletter. That's going to be in the description. Thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.